Okay, so let's talk about your Google Sheet challenge. So the first thing is actually create a new Google Sheet. I want you to name your Google Sheet your name, so I'll be able to identify your sheet by your name. Then I want you to rename Sheet 1, so call it Answers. And then I want you to enter this data into Sheet 1. Okay, you're welcome to type it in, or you can just select and copy and paste this in. Okay, we'll be using this data to actually grade later, so here's a nice little note. So here's what the questions are. So question 1, so it's test 1, question 1, that's the T1, Q1. The question is, what's 3 times 5? So the right answer is 15. Question 2 in test 1 is, what month is Halloween? And then test 1, question 1, it's what years in the 21st century? And then test 2, question 2, what is 3 plus 5? And then test 2, question 3, what do you get when you mix yellow and blue? All right, so those are the questions that yielded this data. Okay, so you'll need that to grade. Okay, the second part here, on this answer sheet now, I want you below this table, I want you to answer these questions. So these are from me. Okay, I want to know what row is Charlie's data contained in. So right underneath, when you do your Google Sheet, just run into this. I just want you to type what row Charlie's data is in. I want you to identify what column is question 1 and test 2 contained in. And then what row and column is Aaron's question 3 answer located in. So once you cut and paste this or fill in your data here, I want to know the answers to these questions. And again, you can just put them right below. All right, and then on this sheet, so on your answer sheet, I want you to actually grade. So I want you to give 5 points to each question in test 1, and then 3 points to each question in test 2. And the grading must be done using formulas. Okay, and I want you to report a final grade as a percent. Okay, so once you grade test 1 and test 2, I want you to calculate a final grade for test 1 and test 2, and I want those to be in percent. Okay, then I want you to add a whole nother sheet. I want you to name this one grades. I want you to copy the names and the test grades, right, the percents only, to this new sheet. So the columns of this sheet should be name, test 1 and test 2, and then test 1 and test 2 will be percents. From this data, I want you to find the max and the min. I want you to find the class average, right, for each test. Right? So find me the class average for test 1 and test 2. And then I want the class average over both tests. So the total class average for test 1 and test 2 together. And then I want you to find the average of test 1 and test 2 for each student. All right, then I want you to add a new sheet. Name this one groups. I want you to assign ID numbers to each one of the students, right, and make them alphabetical order. So Al will be number 1 and Aaron will be number 9. So I want you to form the students into groups of 3, right, based on their average test score. So each group should contain a high, a middle, and a low, so just like our example. And then I want you to actually tell me what the groups are, so identify the groups based on their ID number. So say my first group will be ID number 5, ID number 3, and ID number 8. So somewhere on your Google Sheet, I want to see these groups. Then add a whole nother sheet, name it seating. And I want you to create a seating chart based on the groups you assigned in the tab before. Okay, be careful, you can't enter this by hand. I want the names in the seating chart, the names themselves, to be done by the VLOOKUP, by the formula. And so the only items on this sheet should be a staging area and then a seating chart. Okay, the last 2 things I want you to do, I want you to create a line graph and a bar chart. So on the line graph, I want the vertical axis to be the test scores. I want the horizontal axis to be the actual test 1 and test 2. And then I want the legend to be the student names. And then title this chart Student Test Scores and make it its own sheet. Then create a bar chart with student progress again across the test. I want the vertical axis again to be test scores. Okay? And then the horizontal axis now will be the student names, and the legend will be the test 1 and test 2. So your bars will be test 1 and test 2. Okay, and again, title it student test scores and make it its own sheet. Okay, and then for sharing, I want you to share your Google Sheet with me. So the nwu@gmail.com. I want you to allow me to edit and create a new sidebar navigation link and call it Google Sheets. And then embed a link to your Google Sheet underneath this navigation bar. Okay, I do not want a whole new web page. I just want a link to this sheet, your Google Sheet, in your navigation bar. Okay, so not a new web page.